Hey guys, it's Gabriel. I know my last few videos have been kind of hopscotchy, but we're going back to my EPIK Arrival. Now that I showed you guys my apartment and told you guys the story about meeting my co-teacher, I can now tell you guys about my transition into the school and what it was like meeting the students and also getting into actually teaching, and that's something I'll talk about in my next video. So after settling into my apartment, I think it was the next day, I was going straight to the school instantly. Like as soon as students started seeing me, obviously they knew that I was a foreigner and I would be the EPIK teacher that sort of governed that school. As soon as I got there, I received so many smiles and the kids seemed so excited to meet me and they were very interested in me, and it was kind of funny because I could tell like so many students came up to me and they wanted to have like a conversation, but they didn't know the words to carry on a conversation. So they would be like, hi, and then I would be like, hi, how are you? And then they'd be like, and they just kind of look like really lost and a little bit nervous as well. There were many girls who would see me and they wouldn't say hi, but they would just kind of like stand around, and the second I like try to say hi to them, they're like giggling and then they run away. But yeah, in general, like everything sort of calmed down. At this point in my experience at the school, the kids are not as excited, but every day it's still always, you know, oh hi Mr. Ross, or hello teacher, and there's still that sense of excitement. But when I first came here, like it was as if I was a celebrity and all of the kids knew who I was. They knew like where my room was and my position, and they wanted nothing more than to just like be around me and try to get me to speak with them, and it was really cool. So, you know, meeting other teachers, it was all good, just easy peasy. Everybody was very calm, obviously. When I met my other co-teacher, Miss Bay, she was very nice and very welcoming as well, and I just felt like, you know, very chill vibes with all of the adults. So Sunny and I, we teach 4th and 5th grade, and then Miss Bay and I, we teach 3rd and 6th grade. The students with Miss Bay, they were more rowdy, they were a little bit more hyper, not even a little bit, they were a lot more hyper. It was just crazy, and so I think that with Miss Bay's class, I got asked several in-depth questions, but in general, this is something that I knew before coming here that this would happen. Korean culture, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily okay, but it's very common for people to ask very personal questions. Being half Korean, like I knew this would happen, but I definitely had to put on my Olivia Pope white hat and just sort of think my way politically out of certain questions. It was interesting, and so every grade, even though I did say that 3rd and 6th grade I got asked the more tougher questions, every grade, every class period, I got asked, are you married? And do you have a girlfriend? Those are the more personal questions that you will 100%, I'm like so sure that you will be asked that if you come here teaching. And it's funny because the teachers don't stop them. They let you just answer that question, you know? It's like, oh my gosh. But in general, like the kids were great. And so I think with Sunny's classes, Sunny was a little more chill. Like I didn't really have to create anything special or build anything like a PowerPoint or anything like that. And I was just sort of introducing myself just casually by speaking. But Miss Bay, after meeting her, she was like, yeah, you know, can you create a PowerPoint and do like some special things so that you can show them like your home and things like that. And to be honest, it does work out better when you do that, and I should have done that from the beginning, but in Sunny's class I was allowed to be a little more lazy, and so I appreciated the lazy factor. But honestly, after I created the PowerPoint for Miss Bay's students, I was like, oh, this is much better. And it is a lot cooler for the students to actually see your family and to see where you lived. I showed them like pictures of the different seasons in Virginia and my siblings. I didn't show my parents. Originally I had my parents in there, but there's been some talks about whether or not I should be as open about letting them know that I'm half Korean and half black, and so I just removed my parents. I just talked about them, but I removed them, and then it was just me and my siblings. Although if you look at the picture of me and my siblings when we were younger, like we looked so black and Asian, like it was like unmistakable, but I don't know, I got away with it, so. And I also showed them like my favorite foods and what my hobbies are. And I remember one student saw like my hobbies were writing, watching TV, but then one of the students was like, if you like writing, why are you here? And I was like, yeah, why am I here? But yeah, so every class you get asked, you know, about your personal life and your relationships. And every single class, like I would just kind of answer, well, obviously I would answer no. Oh, are you married? And then I would laugh, ha 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 ha. No. They would ask, oh, but do you have a girlfriend? And I'd be like, ha ha. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't laugh at that one. I would say no. One of my 6th graders, like, they just wouldn't accept no for an answer. They had to like know more. And so one of the students was like, inside of your heart, is there someone special that you can see feeling something special for or being in love with? And the thing is, like, I understood what he asked in Korean, but I tried to look at Miss Bay and try to act like, oh, I don't understand. Miss Bay was like, he asked if, you know, blah, 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 translation. And I was like, I was like, no. They were just like, oh, okay. And then I moved back on. It's tough. It's tough. Definitely be aware of the fact that you'll get grilled about plenty of personal things, relationships definitely. But in general, just try not to be offended or upset by it or feel like you're being like overly exposed. I mean, yes, you are being exposed a little bit, but it's just the student's way. And to be honest, it's a little bit of the culture, and that's sort of how they try to get to know you and understand where you're coming from and what your goals are and what kind of things do you like. If they can sense, especially the students, if they sense some sort of similarity within themselves in you, then they'll feel that much more of a connection and have a stronger interest in who you are as a person and connecting to you on that level. And having that relationship as a teacher-student, it can be really helpful. And so, I mean, the students are crazy about K-pop and things like that, and so I tried to ask them questions and get them to talk about things that they like. And although they didn't always match the things that I liked, I just tried to stay engaged in that and tried to show them that there are common interests. And so that's basically what's important here. But yeah, you definitely feel famous in that way, and the students sort of become like your paparazzi of the school. They're always watching you, they're always saying hi, they're around every single corner. There's like never privacy. They're asking you all these questions about your life and your, you know, your friends and your family back at home. Honestly, it does die down after, I would say, maybe the first month or maybe 2 months. Alright, so stay tuned for the next video where I talk about the differences between my 2 co-teachers and what it's like actually stepping into the teaching role and figuring out what's the best way to go about doing that and what my teaching experience was like doing it for the first time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, it helps me out a lot. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Zeph678. Be yourself, love yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye! Unfortunately, it is not a dryer, and I hear this is actually very common. You put your detergent and stuff in here, you turn it on, and then you have a choice of all of these different options. And then it shows you the time of how long it